How can you get better at managing the financial side of your business? That's the question we're answering on today's episode of The Profit Pillar Show. I'm your host, Parker Stevenson, CEO of the accounting firm Evolve Finance and author of the book Profit Pillars. Now, I want to first say this is going to be a very tactical episode. I have 6 tips I want to share with you that I've learned from serving online businesses and modern small businesses with their accounting, with their financial analysis, with financial and money coaching for over a decade, right? I've been doing this a long time. And so I got some tips that I think are going to be really helpful for a lot of you. But I want to start off this episode by actually sharing a story here, because a lot of what stops a business owner from getting better at the financial sides of their businesses is their identities. They believe that they are not numbers people, so why even try to do the financial stuff well? And they will wait until it becomes a mess or becomes too painful to keep ignoring, and then that's when they start to take it more seriously. And I wanted to share a little bit about my journey here before I share these tips, because I want you all to understand that I don't believe there's no such thing as a numbers person. I don't believe that there are just some people who are meant to deal with the financial side of running a business and those that aren't. Unless you are trying to build a multinational corporation, a massive startup, then cool. You can hire an executive team. One of those people will be a CFO, right? You'll get all the support you need. But probably along the way, you're not going to get there without understanding the financial stuff as well. Not to the same degree as a CFO, but every business owner needs to be somewhat financially literate if they want their businesses to sustain any sort of financial success over a long period of time. And the online business space has had a lot of churn. We've had a lot of clients that stuck with us for years and then they left because their businesses failed. And a lot of that would be alleviated if they were thinking about their businesses from a more financial perspective and not just through a sales and marketing lens. And your business is not just sales and marketing. Your business is a financial entity. It needs money to be sustained, and you need money to be sustained and pay your bills and pay for your lifestyle. So it's really important that you make sure your business is supplying you with the cash you need to live. But in order to do that, we can't just think about our businesses just from a sales and marketing standpoint. And I want to use myself as an example of the ability for identities to change and to learn and grow as business owners. Now, I talk about this in Profit Pillars, but I'll give you a condensed version here. I was the kid who was frustrated with math in elementary school. I remember being at my desk with my dad. He's helping me with my homework and being in tears because I just didn't get it. And then I got into high school. I was in AP English, AP History, AP Spanish, but all my friends in those classes, a lot of them were also in AP Math or AP Science classes. I was just in the regular classes for those subjects. So I was middle of the road, but all my other friends were so good at all aspects of academia that I felt like, okay, I'm behind here. I should be better at this. So when I got to college, I took my math class, my stats class, and I was like, all right, just get through this. And then hopefully you won't have to worry about math too much again. I had to take 2 accounting classes, had to take a business finance class. Did not do well in those classes. I ignored them because I created an identity that said, I'm not a numbers person. I'm just going to try to survive. But when I get out in the real world and get a job, I'm going to do something creative. Because I was a musician throughout my time in college. I was actually a musician after college as well. I played part-time in a semi-professional rock band. And even before then, as a kid, I drew comic book characters and was an artist. I took art classes. I was a creative person, but I had shut my identity down to just being a creative. I didn't think I was a numbers person or I ever would be a numbers person until I got into the corporate world and had my first corporate job. And even then, I started off in customer service and I thought, I'm going to get into sales, I'm going to get into marketing. So I'm not going to have to do that much math as it is. Well, I actually got into product and it was awesome. I loved working close to the product, being part of the product team as a product manager and merchandiser, and I loved it. But I had a rude awakening. There's a lot of numbers and a lot of spreadsheets associated with the product side of things. I had to work with the finance team, the ops teams, and they were all living in spreadsheets all the time. So I had to step up my game. I had to get more familiar with the numbers, more familiar with spreadsheets, and more familiar with the financial makeup of our business model and how the decisions myself and my bosses and the rest of our team were making were affecting the financial outlook of the business. And I realized that this is everything. It does, like, the numbers guide everything we're doing inside of the business. And because I had great mentors, people around me who were way better at the numbers, way better at the spreadsheets, they taught me, I learned. It's still not my biggest strength, but I turned it from a weakness into an asset. And if I hadn't shifted my perspective of myself and shifted my identity around not being a numbers person to being someone who can deal with this stuff, was massive for my confidence and massive for my development as a business person. And if I hadn't gone through that experience, I don't think I'd be here at Evolve Finance today, because I don't know if I would have been of any use to Corey. I don't even know if I would have even thought to go, hey, Corey, let's go into business together. Because I'd be like, I can't do bookkeeping. I can't do accounting. I don't deal with numbers. I'm playing a band, or, if I just stayed in sales or whatever it may be, I may not even be here. But during my time at Evolve Finance, I went deeper than most business owners would have to deal with in terms of understanding numbers, because I was doing bookkeeping for our clients, and then I was doing advising around the bookkeeping I was doing for our clients, and then I was helping to manage a bookkeeping team, and then I started really advising and coaching some really successful business owners, and then I wrote a book about finance for online and modern small businesses. So I went in a direction most business owners don't have to go, which is going into a higher level of competency, skill, and knowledge. But if you told me 20 years ago I'd be the CEO of an accounting firm and I'd write a book on finance, I would have said you are hallucinating. There is zero chance that's happening because of my identity. And again, I'm not expecting y'all to become the heads of an accounting firm or write a finance book. But I literally went from playing in a punk rock band in college, wearing Dickie shorts and a chain wallet, to running an accounting firm. If I can do that, then you all can put these tips that I'm going to share with you in this episode into action. When we limit our identities to what we believe or what we think we're good at and not good at, we reduce the ability to grow and learn. And if there's one thing, like if you were interviewing me about what it takes to build a business and be an entrepreneur and all that good stuff, what I would say is you have to be in the business of problem solving and personal development. And not just personal development around mindset. Are you developing new strengths? Are you reducing weaknesses? Are you learning new skills? Because when you have no team, or you have a very small team, someone's got to get the work done. Someone has to be thinking strategically. And hopefully, one day you will have other people around you that you can hire with strengths that are your weaknesses. And I have a whole team around me that have strengths that are definitely more weaknesses for me. But we didn't start like that. Corey and I had to figure out everything on our own, and we had to continuously learn, grow, and develop. So anyone who's listening to this who says their identity revolves around, well, I'm not a numbers person, you got to kick that to the curb. You got to find a way to get over that, because you can learn the basics of a spreadsheet. You can learn the basics of your profit and loss statement and how money moves in and out of your business. And in fact, I believe you have to, if you want to have a higher likelihood of succeeding in the long term with a small online business or modern small business. So let's jump into the tips here. A lot of these things I go into more detail about in the book Profit Pillars, but I want to give you a little bit here. So, because some of these things you can start thinking about and putting into action right away. The first tip I'm going to give you here is keep your business and personal finances separate. I say this all the time. I know a lot of business owners know they should do this. Some of you all might be doing a really good job of this. Some of you might be doing none of it and everything's mixed and you know it's something you need to do. But I've also been doing this long enough to see very successful business owners say, yeah, it's mostly separate, but there's still a lot of commingling, which makes a mess of their numbers. So it's so crucial for a number of reasons. Clarity, like getting the clarity you need to make good personal financial decisions while also making good business decisions for your business. It's hard to do those two things when everything's mixed together. There's a number of other reasons I talk about in the book, but those are the ones that I think you really have to understand for the sake of this podcast. If you're going to take your business seriously and you want to take your finances more seriously, you have to stop commingling business and personal. It's a nightmare for your accounting team. It's hard. It makes it way more difficult for you to know what's going on in your business. And we have to have a clear picture of what's going on in our businesses if we want to take care of the business so the business can take care of the business owner and the rest of the team. Now, the second tip I will give you is take your bookkeeping more seriously. I understand that I am biased. I have an accounting firm and one of our core services is bookkeeping. So I understand that. But we've had clients at Evolve Finance leave because they think, oh, Evolve Finance is crushing it for me, but I can find someone to do it cheaper. So I'll go work with someone cheaper. And then they realize that Evolve Finance operates differently than a lot of other accounting firms. We have much higher standards, is what I will say. And they end up coming back because they realize, you get less when you pay less. And I'm all for, if you have a really small business, you hire a bookkeeper that you can afford based on where your business is at. But I've just seen a lot of businesses, as they make more money, put more money into the various areas of their business, but still keep a sub-quality accounting team in general in place in their businesses, and their finances suffer because of it. And running the business becomes significantly more stressful. And there's a lot of other components around that become more stressful as your business grows. So taking your bookkeeping more seriously might mean I got to start doing this in a spreadsheet myself because I have no bookkeeping, or it might mean I got to upgrade my bookkeeping team because I know they're not doing a good job. They're not doing it well enough, and I need to have more financial insight. And speaking of financial insight, my third tip is you have to learn how to read your P&L, your profit and loss statement. Now, what I will say is that if you're working with a bookkeeper who doesn't give a crap about how your P&L looks, then that's a problem, because it is hard to read a profit and loss statement if there's no care, thought, or strategy being put into how your P&L is being structured. But that's still not an excuse to not understand how a profit and loss statement works. It's the one main core financial statement that I believe every business owner needs to understand. And I would say that even if I did not run an accounting firm. It is fundamental. It is crucial. Once you learn how to do it, you'll never lose it. It'll be there for the rest of your entrepreneurial career. It is not as difficult to understand as most people think, but you have to engage with the P&L. You have to look at it. You have to look at your monthly profit and loss statements, your yearly profit and loss statements a little more regularly to get used to looking at it. But it is no more difficult to learn how to look at a P&L than anything else you've done in your business. In fact, I would argue that a lot of the things you've had to learn how to do in your business are way more difficult and took way more time to learn than what it will take to look at a profit and loss statement. It's something we help our clients with at Evolve Finance. We think P&L financial literacy, and P&L, by the way, is profit and loss statement. That is, again, just non-negotiable if you want to be a successful entrepreneur. So learn how to read your P&L. There's a lot of different resources out there, but I always think it's easier to look at your own profit and loss statement and learn from that, because frankly, you don't need to look at anyone else's profit and loss statement. You only need to know what your profit and loss statement means. So talk to your bookkeeper, talk to your accountant, find a coach, whatever it may be. Learn how to look at your profit and loss statement, because it is the backbone. It is the core scorecard for your business. And if you don't have a scorecard telling you if you're doing things well or not, then you're always going to be taking shots at the dark. And I'm a big proponent of, how do we reduce risk in running our businesses? How do we not guess? And how do we make more data-driven decisions? And your profit and loss statement is full of really good data points that can help you be a better CEO and make better decisions. Now, the fourth tip here is actually tied to the fifth tip as well. Tip number 4 is understand what your monthly expenses are on average. What are you spending on average in your business? Because if you know based on the last 12 months or 6 months, you're averaging X amount of dollars in expenses, then that makes it pretty easy for you and anyone else on your team that's responsible for generating revenue in the business to go, all right, are we making enough money this month to, on average, cover our expenses and beyond to hopefully be as profitable as possible? And that brings me to tip 5. Then, if you can also figure out what you're averaging in revenue on a monthly basis, then you can literally go, I'm averaging X amount of dollars in revenue. I'm averaging X amount of dollars in expenses. If I subtract those expenses from my average revenue, I can see what I'm averaging in profit. And so you don't have to build out some big forecast or budget. You don't have to have some complicated spreadsheet. You and or your team know, hey, this is what our monthly nut is on average right now. And by monthly nut, I mean these are our expenses. So we better be averaging X amount of dollars in revenue if this business is going to hit the profit margins it needs to hit in order to make sure everyone gets paid and the business owner is getting paid and this business can be sustained. It's like the easiest financial metric to give yourself is, what are we averaging in expenses? What are we averaging in revenue? From there, you can see what you're averaging in profit. And if your average profit is not large enough to pay your bills, then we either got to bring our average expenses down or we got to increase our average revenue while keeping our expenses where they're at. It's like the simplest CEO way of thinking about, is my business in a good financial place? But to get your average revenue and average expenses, you do need some sort of financial tracking. You need some sort of P&L, which means you need some bookkeeping, which is why tip number 2 is you need to take your bookkeeping seriously. And tip number 3 is you need to learn how to read a P&L, because otherwise it's going to be tough for you to get the average expenses and average revenue in your business without those other 2 tips. Now, the last tip here is, eventually, just knowing your average revenue and average expenses is not going to be enough. Eventually, your business is going to get big enough, sophisticated enough, complicated enough, messy enough. You're going to want to forecast and budget, which is just, all that means is a spreadsheet that you and or someone on your team has built out to model what we think the future of this business is going to look like over the next 12 months or so. And this is something that a lot of business owners think, well, I need a fractional CFO to do that. And I do think if you have, and you're probably, these businesses aren't probably listening to this podcast, but if you have like a sophisticated manufacturing business, or you have a startup where you are burning through someone else's cash and trying to build your product and get it to market as fast as you can, you have a high inventory-based business, then you might get to the point where you need a fractional CFO or an internal controller doing more of the future financial modeling of the business, because there's a lot of moving parts and a lot of things to be considered when you're running a business like that. But for online businesses, for modern small businesses, there's not that many moving parts. Even if you're running a 7-figure business, there's more moving parts than when you were doing $50,000 a year. But that doesn't mean you need a fractional CFO to do this. I'm a big believer that if it's not you as the business owner, someone else on your team needs to be comfortable in the spreadsheet. And if you don't have anyone on your team, or including yourself, that can start a spreadsheet, model out how much money you think you're going to make over the next 12 months and what you think you're going to spend on expenses over those next 12 months as well, to see what your profitability goals are going to be, That's a problem. It really is. Like, there's no successful business that just has no spreadsheets, especially no financial spreadsheets. I'm not talking about spreadsheets that's tracking your content ideas for social media. Numbers spreadsheets that have actual financial data in it. So there is this thought again that business owners go, I think I need a CFO to do. No, you don't. Because the CFO can maybe build out the spreadsheet, but only you and your team know, well, how much money can we expect to make, 6 months from now, 12 months from now? You can go in if you have good bookkeeping and see, well, this is what we've been spending on team costs and on our lead and conversion costs and all of that stuff, and go, is it going to increase or is it going to decrease? Especially you as the CEO, you should know, are you making investments? Are you cutting back on things? Put it in a spreadsheet, model it out. And again, this is more important the bigger your business gets, but if you're doing $500,000 or more a year in your business, chances are your business is going to benefit pretty greatly from just mapping out what you want the next 6 to 12 months to look like. Because when you have numbers as targets, not feelings or general ideas as targets, but numbers, you're going to have a higher likelihood of hitting those targets the more specific they are. And nothing is more specific than financial goals. If you're in the business of wanting to make money and sustain a living and be able to pay your team and have a financially stable business, we have to have financial targets to some degree. Profitability targets, revenue targets, whatever it may look like for your business. But we need a spreadsheet that's trying to paint a picture of where we're going with the business in terms of our revenue and expenses. And it's simpler than we think. As business owners, it's just some of us I know are intimidated by spreadsheets. We actually do have a forecast and budget spreadsheet that we give our clients at Evolve Finance when they become a client. We also sell that same spreadsheet on our website at evolvefinance.com. We'll put the link in this episode so you can go check that out. Now, before we wrap up, let's recap. As I said at the start of the episode, I learned how to build financial skill sets myself, literally starting from ground zero. You can build a few more for yourself as well. Do not let your identity as a creative or a visionary or whatever stop you from building more financial skills. Not as many as I have, but build more than you have right now. So here are my tips. Number 1, keep your business and personal finances separate. Number 2, take your bookkeeping more seriously. The larger your business becomes, the more you want a bookkeeping team that actually knows what the hell they're doing. Same with your tax team. Number 3, learn how to read your P&L. You do not need to learn how to read Amazon's or Microsoft's. You need to learn how to read the P&L for your business. Number 4, calculate and know what your business is averaging in expenses every month. And tip 5 is do the same with your revenue. Calculate and know what your business is averaging in revenue on a monthly basis. And then when your business gets bigger, tip number 6 is have to build a forecast and budget. Frankly, you don't have to wait till your business is bigger. If I was starting a new business, I would have a forecast and budget before I spend any money, before I build out any products. I would do the math, basic math, not fancy CFO stuff. Just basic spreadsheet mapping out what does the financial makeup of this business look like, and do the numbers look good? And if the numbers look good, then I'm getting into product creation mode. Then I'm getting into sales and marketing planning, all the strategy stuff, but you got to make the numbers work better. So really you can never do it early enough. But if you've been delaying that, it hasn't been a priority. The closer you are to $500,000 or more, the more important it is that you start to build out a forecast and budget. Whew, that was a lot today. A lot of very financy stuff. It's not as hard as you think. Again, let's shift our identities around who we think we are, what we think we're capable of. Again, if Parker can get better at money, can get better with numbers, you all can too. As always, thank you for listening. If you want to upgrade your accounting team, upgrade your bookkeeping experience, go to evolvefinance.com, see how we can help. If you want to learn more than what you just learned in this episode, please read my book, Profit Pillars. You can buy it anywhere books are sold online, but really appreciate you listening. Appreciate you watching. As always, I'll see you in the next episode.